제1차 차세대 리더십 통일캠프를 지금부터 본격적으로 시작하도록 하겠습니다.
And we will start the first next generation of unification camp.
네. 자, 먼저 오늘 본격적으로 시작에 앞서서 이제 국민 의례가 있겠는데요. 다 자리에서 일어나 주시기 바라겠습니다.
All raise up for the Pledge of Allegiance.
자, 국기에 대한 경례.
나는 자랑스러운 태극기 앞에 자유롭고 정의로운 대한민국의 무궁한 영광을 위해 충성을 다할 것을 굳게 다짐합니다.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed? 통일물과 백두산이 마르고 닳도록 하나님이 보호하사 우리나라 만세 무궁화.
네. 순국선에 대한 국명.
여러분들 감사합니다. 오늘 차세대 리더십에 여러분들 참석해 주신 것을 정말 감사드려요. 왜냐하면 앞으로의 주역이 여러분들이에요. 우리 이제 지난 6월 12일 날 미북 정상회담이 이제 성공적으로 끝났고, 이제 앞으로 저희들 이제 종전선언을 하고 남북이 통일하는 과정으로 가는데 긴 여정이 시작될 겁니다. 긴 시간이. 이제 여러분들이 지금부터 시작해서 여러분들이 통일의 주역이 되면 이 다음에 아마 오늘 아침에 골든벨 참석하신 분들도 계실 거예요. 그러면 여러분들이 북한에 대한 많은 그 사회적인 문화, 또 역사, 또 그들의 관계되는 시설 여러 가지 공부를 많이 해오신 분도 있고 리더십에 바로 참석하신 분들도 있는데, 오늘 이 행사는 여러분들이 앞으로 이제 통일의 주역이 되기 위한, 또 여러분들이 미 주류 사회에서 성공을 해야만 여러분들이 공부 열심히 해서 어머니의 족, 여러분의 족, 대한민국이 발전할 수 있고 통일될 수 있는 그런 그 역할을 여러분들이 하셔야 될 겁니다. 끝까지 여러분들 경청하시고, 오늘 또 패널들, 훌륭하신 패널분들이 오셔서 여러분들하고 이제 디스커션을 할 텐데 끝까지 참석을 해 주시고, 저의 인사말은 아마 여러분들 브로셔에 갖고 있을 거예요. 그걸로 대신하겠습니다. 끝까지 유종의미를 거둘 수 있도록, 그리고 끝나는 시간 전에 또 여러분들을 위해서 맛있는 식사를 준비했습니다. 그래서 식사도 꼭 하시고 마지막까지.
And most of all, I'm so delighted to see you, my fellow students and young people who are here with much interest in the unification and history of Korea. I'd also like to express my gratitude of the instructors today and panelists who are participating today, despite busy schedules. As you know very well, there has been a flurry of diplomatic efforts for peace on the Korean Peninsula, especially the historic U.S.-North Korea summit in Singapore this week brightened the prospect for peace and prosperity. The process of U.S.-North Korea summit has reaffirmed the role of the United States, South Korea's most important ally, along with the support from international community, is crucial to accomplish denuclearization and permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. In this regard, I really appreciate the Korean American community has contributed to ever strengthening Korea-US alliance and spreading the message of peace to the mainstream American society, which made Pyeongchang Olympic Games this February a successful Peace Olympics. Especially all of you, my fellow students here today, our most valuable asset as a link for a stronger U.S.-ROK alliance and for a bright future of the Korean reunification. I'm sure you will become a Bill Gates or Steve Jobs in a new economy of the reunified Korea and contribute to opening a new chapter of the modern Korean history. I'm glad and appreciate that National Unification Advisory Council, NUAC, or the San Diego chapter offers a lot of opportunities for next generation young Korean Americans to learn about Korea and to understand the meaning of peaceful unification. The Korean Consulate will do its best to support your future endeavor. I thank you again, all of you next generation Korean Americans, for participating in today's event. Hopefully you will take away a lot from today's camp. Thank you very much.
한반도의 통일과 역사. 한반도의 통일과 역사에 대해서
Now there will be a historical lecture held by Dr. Won-do Choi.
최운도 박사님의 역사 강의를 지금부터 듣도록 하겠는데요. 여러분들 큰 박수로 맞아주시면 되겠습니다.
A big round of applause for Dr. Choi.
Today, for the 45 minutes maybe, I'll focus on where Korea became divided, and then why we should be unified. Well, when you talk about unification, there are lots of other themes. The example would be what would be the cost, or how we make progress for the unification. But there are all the other dimensions will be lectured in the second part. No, I'll dump everything to him. But for me, I'll focus about where our division came from, and then why we should be unified. Let's look at the left-hand side pictures. What is that? That is a famous picture of Hiroshima. And then what about next picture? Yeah. This is after explosion of the nuclear bomb. This is Hiroshima burnt down. The only concrete structure is the most, famous and richest building at the time. It was about the stock company. So that's the only thing left at the time. It was made of the concrete and stones. See, all the other houses, they are burnt down because Japanese houses are made up with wood. Because of the heat, everything burnt down. Let's look at the next picture. Okay, that is the Nagasaki. So there is a reason why I introduced you these three pictures. Okay, next page. Okay. Well, history is like a bumper-to-bumper causations. Whenever you say, where did it come from? Someone explains, then we'll say, where did it come from? There is a past. But today, let me start our division from the nuclear weapons dropped at the Hiroshima in August 6, 1945. That was the almost end of the Second World War, right? And August 9th, after 3 days of the dropping of the nuclear weapons, Soviet Union declared its war towards Japan. At the very beginning of the Second World War, Japan and Soviet Union, they made a secret agreement not to declare the war each other. And then, already the German declared its surrender. And then, look at that, that's August 6th, nuclear bomb dropped. Everyone knows that, that's almost the end of the war. And the Soviet Union just declared the war, and they began to move its army. And then August 11th, Soviet army already arrived at Najin. Do you know where the Najin is? You might have heard about Najin Sambong. It's a very far end of the northeast of Korean Peninsula. So it means that Soviet armies already came in to the peninsula already August 11th. And August 15th, Japanese surrendered. At the time, Soviet Union came down to Kaesong. You know where Kaesong is, right? Kaesong is maybe about 20 miles away from Seoul. It's very close. And then, Soviet Union, they just participated in the war on the Asian front only 6 days. So United States was shocked. Soviet Union just came in a day. And then the officials, U.S. officials at the Guam and Manila, they said that, well, what should we do? And then they have been thinking, already Soviets are down to the Kaesong. And then what should we do? What should we propose to? And then they've been thinking that, what about 39th or 40th around Pyongyang or that area? If they suggested 40th or 89th, they said they expected Soviet would not accept their offer. So the United States officials, they thought that, how about right below there came in? That's 36th line, 38th line. Then that was a kind of the best option. Was kind of best option for the United States, and then they did not expect the Soviet Union would accept it. But when they sent a telegram, they said, that's okay, that's good. And then Soviet Union accepted, and then Soviet Union and the United States agreed disarmament lines at the 38th lines. That is what we call something division line between the two. And then somehow for 3 years, the Soviet Union and United States allied countries spending 3 years how to make the trusteeship. It means before the war, end of the war, they agreed how, they thought that Joseon or Korea is not ready to make its own government. So they didn't agree with each other to make trusteeship of the Korean Peninsula. And then, between the allied powers like United States, Soviet Union, England, China, they've been fighting each other to take more from the Korean Peninsula, and then they could not agree that. So that's why 1948, only the south part had general elections and then declared its own government. And then next month in September, North Korea, they made their own government and then declared. Now, politically, the two countries are separated. Document. That is the armistice agreement, the last page of the agreement. Look at this. The lower two signatures are just the observers. You don't need to care about that. It's the first three persons who made the signature there. It's not clear, but you can see that on the left-hand side there is a Kim Il-sung. The second part is written in Chinese character. If you read in Korean, it is called the Pangdeok-hwae. It is, we should read from the English. He is a leader, commander of the Chinese volunteer army, something. So the third one on the right-hand side is Mark Clark. He is the commander of the United Forces, Allied powers. So this armistice was reached by the three powers: North Korea, China, and UN or United States. So why China is such a big country? 2,000, 3,000 years ago, it was divided into the small areas, but it was unified. because of the geopolitics. This is a huge landmass. If it is divided, the war is unavoidable. So that's why China was unified under the one emperor. United States also became the hegemonic power after it achieved the unification. Well, there was one thing I'm really curious that when I was studying in the United States 30 years ago, I was saying we suffered Japanese colony. That's a very sad past, and then that makes much difference to us. Then my friend in the political science department, my friend said that, well, United States was also the colony. Right? Well, what do you think about that? Korea was colony for only 36 years under the Japan, but the United States was also colony more than that of the England. Because I'm not measuring about that kind of histories, but I do not have clear answer about that. That would be a homework for you, just to think about, is it comparable, the facts or not? So, anyway, the unification is a kind of a international community. Unification is kind of was that the mandatory effect for the national powers. If you go to the political science department at the universities, you will learn something called the word, anarchy. It means that international community, so far there is no unified government. We have UN, but UN is not that much powerful and the only power institute in the world. Each country's power is more important than the UN, as long as the agreement is not reached. Okay. This is the picture took from the angle different from the Independence Gate. You can take a look at the two huge rock poles there. Those are the ones used at the Yangon Gate. And then in the place they built the Independence Gate there. Next page. Okay, it was last month. In the Washington, D.C., there was a very important ceremony. It was the reopening of the old Korean legation building. Next. Well, look at this. In the Joseon, which was called there was an imperial country of Joseon. They purchased the building with $25,000 at the time to work for the independence for Korean countries, Korean peninsula, among the imperial forces. And then in 2005 and 2010, when Korea was going through the process of colonized, it was sent to, how can I say, it was overturned to Japan at $5. And then it just sold out to Americans. And there was nothing there, but somehow Koreans found it, and then they repurchased it 2012 at 3,500,000 won, and then now they reopened it. It is a very important building. So if you go to the Washington, D.C. sometime in the later, there is a place you go and take a look. That was a very symbolic place. Okay. For our Korean identity, we should look at this. We are struggling to come over the legacies from the Japanese colonialism, as you know, about the comfort women statues and the Dokdo questions and the textbook problems, all those things. But the other one is that China, at the early 2000s, they began something called Northeastern Project. Means they have been just reinterpret putting the Korean history of 2,000 years ago about Goguryeo, which we learned at school that Goguryeo was occupying the northern part beyond Yalu River. But China reinterpreted that question, and then the Goguryeo was a kind of local government of China. China is expanding its Great Wall. Look at this. It was 6,000 kilometers at the very beginning of the 2000s. In less than 15 years. Now these days, their Great Wall's length is more than 20,000 kilometers. They're expanding and reinterpreting the history. So, well, if you look at these things, to recover our identity as a Korea who lived on the Korean Peninsula, we have to look for our unification. And then you should be the persons who may lead in the future, what kind of a country it would be, how it would be unified. And then, well, during the last 6 months while staying in Washington, D.C., something was very, very glad to me was that our Korean community was developed totally different and became a totally different community compared to the 30 years ago or 20 years ago when I was experienced in the United States. So you should be the generation who's going to lead the Korean community and the future of Korean unifications.
네, 첫 번째 렉션 여기서 그럼 박수로 마치는 걸 할까요? 네.
Thank you very much.
두 번째는 독일의 통일 과정을 통해서 생각해보는 한반도의 통일이 되겠습니다.
Now we will listen to the second history lecture, the Korean unification. It is about the lessons from the German Dr. 안태형.
네, 안태영 박사님 모시고 이야기 나눠보도록 하겠습니다. 박수로 맞아주십시오.
Hello, everyone. It's really good to be here and meet you all, you guys. And I'm really thankful for Los Angeles 총영사관 and 민주평통Ocsd 협의회 for inviting me here. And I don't have many interesting video clips and animations or images in my lecture, but the good news is that my lecture will be very short. And actually, I brought my PPT origin pointer here, but it's not working here because I'm too far from the technology booth. So I'm trying this one maybe in the middle of the seat. So you just keep focusing on the screen, and I will give my lecture maybe around here in the middle of the audience. But you don't need to see my good-looking face. Just please watch the screen. So my question is, why should we study German unification to talk about Korean unification? The first reason is that what many Koreans now dream of already became reality. Germany almost 30 years ago by a peaceful and democratic process. Therefore, it can be our textbook for unification, but you gotta remember that and we should be aware of two simple historical analogies here, because there are differences between South Korea and North Korea and East Germany and West Germany. South Korea is not West Germany, and North Korea is not East Germany, as you know. And the current situation in Korea is very different from the one in Germany in 1990s. The unified Germany also has a lot of problems. including political, economic, societal, and cultural disparities between the old West Germany region and the old East Germany region. So we are going to examine the similarities and the differences between Germany and Korea in more details. Both countries have similarities, such as both countries were divided by foreign major powers right after the Second World War. And East Germany and North Korea, both of these two countries were included in the communist camp or communist state during the Cold War, while West Germany and South Korea were members of capitalist or market-oriented market economy stage with free and democratic political systems. But there are also differences between Germany and Korea. East Germany was much wealthier, much richer than today's North Korea, while North Korea's military power is much stronger than the old East Germany. And South Korea is less prepared for the unification with North Korea than West Germany. Okay, and East Germany was a satellite state of the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and the external condition, which was the demise of the Soviet Union and the collapse of the East European socialist regime, had made reunification a distinct reality. Korean unification as a process, not as a result. Process itself is a unification. We have to achieve our unification by a due process, proper process. Number two, we have to seek a gradual unification, not a sudden or abrupt unification, because a sudden and abrupt unification will take a lot of sacrifice from people of North Korea and South Korea. So we gotta prefer a gradual unification to a sudden unification. And we also have to seek a peaceful unification, not a violent unification.
What about the culture and like the political systems? What compromises do you think would be implemented there?
Okay, some people worry about the future of unified Korea. They think, what if the unified Korea will be another communist country? But I don't think we don't need to worry about it too much, because now South Korea's GDP is around 30 or 40 times that of North Korea, and the population of South Korea is twice North Korea. And I think the communist system or socialist political system is, how can I say, is outdated. I don't think there is so I don't think we need to worry about the future of the unified Korea. The unified Korea will remain as a democratic and a prosperous country. That's my answer.
It would be an imbalance of powers if we unified, and then it would feel that South Korea is trying to overpower North Korean culture.
Well, true. Yeah, of course. I mean, we have
Korean actually community. As things work very well, actually we should build a new kind of national community, not North, not South, just Korean community. And what we are focusing on is peace, making peace. Peace comes first. And afterwards, peace is realized. Then we'll think about this reunification. As Professor said, this reunification is just a process where people from South and North enjoy peaceful coexistence and prosperity. And then this reunification comes naturally. Right? So,
So politics means listening to people, gathering ideas and thoughts, and trying to reflect it.
there are a lot of communication and trade and investment exchange between two sides. So this is one of our main job.
I know how you think and what you do know.
You have different teachers that speak to you, the different teachers that made a good impact on you, and you're like, hey, I want to.
All right, I guess I'm gonna keynote to Google Play for you. You're welcome.
대부분 독이라고 세상은 끝이 정해진 책처럼 이미 돌이킬 수 없는 현실이라고 그래요. 난 꿈이 있어요. 그 꿈을 믿어요. 나를 지켜봐요. 눈물을 나 안고 말할 수가 없지만 난 너를 사랑하네. 이 세상은 너뿐이야. 소리쳐 부르지만 저 대답 없는 거울로 그렇게 타는데
강호, 윤성창. 제목 조리님. 대단해요.